Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to discuss consulting versus finance as a career path. Now if you're watching this video, then you're probably interested in either career path of finance or management consulting, and these are very traditional career paths one would choose to take after university on the graduate scheme. Especially as an international student, if any of you out there are watching, the finance or consulting pathway is probably the most common one international students go for, given that they give you the highest chance of getting a work visa sponsored in the UK because of the salary range and sort of the job prospects that follow. So in this video, I'm going to break down the two career paths into more detail and go through with you the scope, the nature, and what each career path would offer you. I'll also go through a bit about the application process for each path, salaries, your lifestyles that you might expect working in each of these career paths, and the exit options as well. During this video, I'm going to talk to you a bit about my own background, given that I started in management consulting 3.5 years ago on the graduate scheme. I was an international student myself, and I did consulting for 3.5 years before I moved to my current position as a project manager in an investment bank. So I would say I'm quite familiar with both pathways, and obviously I've helped a lot of graduates get offers in their these respective areas. I feel like having worked in both management consulting and my current position in an investment bank gives me a good insight into how these industries really are, and as much as possible I'm trying to be brutally honest in sharing some of these personal anecdotes with you from my time in management consulting as well. Okay, firstly, let's go through what each of these career paths actually entail. Number one, for management consulting, what does a management consultant actually do?
Consulting sounds like a rather vague term, but what it essentially means is problem solving for businesses. Now, you might be asking yourself, what sort of problems do businesses have? Well, a business could have any number of issues and challenges to resolve. For example, a business might want to expand to a new geography, and so they need consultants to come in with the expertise of helping other companies branch into new markets, new countries, and expand into new geographies. Or the issue could be a bit more operational, and the company could need consultants to come and help implement a new piece of technology. Or a company, such as a bank, could require consultants with the expertise in regulatory change to come in to implement a piece of new regulation. I did many of these projects as a management consultant specializing in financial services. What it boils down to, essentially, is that the consultant probably has expertise in a certain area which a business might not have internally. Additionally, the consultants being hired are a dedicated team of resources that can just focus on the problem at hand, and they don't have to deal with other aspects of the business. Now, there's a whole spectrum of consulting firms and consulting positions. At the higher end, you've got strategy consulting, which is essentially helping businesses solve higher level strategic problems, such as how can I grow my company into a multi-million-pound company? Or how can my company expand into new markets? Examples of strategy houses include the famous MBB, McKinsey, Bain, and Boston Consulting Group. Further down the spectrum, you've got your regular management consulting firms, which include the management consulting arm of firms like Accenture and the Big Four. These firms focus on implementing solutions to very specific and operational problems within the business. Sometimes, strategic firms such as McKinsey would come up with the strategy, and an implementation management consulting firm such as KPMG or Deloitte would focus on the implementation side of things. As a consultant, you will be working on different client projects throughout your career, and it is true that no 2 days are really the same in consulting. You could get staffed on different pieces of work and projects with different scopes, timescales, and work with different clients throughout your career. When I was a consultant, I worked on many different projects, including projects ranging from 3 weeks long to 3 months long to even a year long. I also traveled quite a fair bit, going to places like the south coast of England to help clients with projects. For most consultants, traveling is a large part of the job, and it can be quite frequent.
Now, personally, for me, I really enjoyed my time as a management consultant, especially as that was at the beginning of my career. I could really expose myself to a wide range of industries, sectors, clients, and some of the work that I was doing was very varied and interesting, and truly no 2 days were the same. I felt that at the beginning of my career, when I wasn't really sure what I wanted to specialize in, management consulting was a good way to try a lot of different things and not be too pigeonholed in specific skill set or specific sector. And if you're more interested in the business side of things, problem solving, and really developing your soft skills such as presentations, speaking to clients, managing people, then I think consulting could be a good place for you to start your career. Now, what do bankers or people working in finance actually do then?
It's not easy to generalize what people working in finance actually do, but for the ease of discussion, let's just focus on the business of banking, and we won't cover other kinds of financial institutions in this video. The essence of a bank's business is to take deposits and give loans. Today, banks do all sorts of other services which spin off from their core business, such as advising their clients on how to invest, helping companies buy and sell other companies, and so on and so forth. There are different types of banks, for example, investment banks, commercial banks, and retail banks, just to name a few. The key differences between these is that they have different customer bases and do different services for their clients. Everyone, including companies and people like you and me, require the services that banks provide. It's safe to say that banking is a key part of the economies of developed nations, especially in the UK. London in particular is one of the major banking and finance hubs of the world. If you want to work in the bank, there are two broad categories of roles to consider: the front office and the back office. The front office refers to the divisions such as sales, trading, investment banking, and generally the people who deal with clients and directly bring in revenue for the bank. In terms of the day-to-day responsibilities for someone working in the front office, you might be doing pitch books to present ideas to existing and potential clients, to upsell products. You might be doing market research to produce thought leadership papers. You might be working on live transactions, and within that, financial modeling, speaking with different stakeholders, and writing information memos. There's also the advisory branch of the bank where you are involved in things like mergers and acquisitions, restructuring, and capital raising. The back office of the bank refers to any other division which plays more of a supporting role. These functions don't help the bank to generate revenue directly, but are important in ensuring the bank can function as an operational entity. This includes divisions such as risk and compliance, technology, human resources, legal, and many more. I won't go into all the various supporting divisions in this video as there's just too many different functions, but I might do a video on that in the future. If you'd be interested to find out more about the non-banking roles within a bank, please drop me a comment down below.
Okay, let's talk about the application process for both pathways. So the application process for both these pathways are very similar. You start with a set of online psychometric tests. You then move on to first round interviews with HR, and then probably a second round interview with someone from business. Now, the one key difference for the consulting pathway and the finance pathways in terms of the penultimate stage before you get the offer is that for consulting, there is usually a case study stage. The case study stage of the application process for consulting applications is probably the most challenging bit of the whole process. This involves hours of preparation, and you really have to show the assessors that you know how to approach business problems and how to think with a logical mind and flow of thought. For banking applications, the equivalent of the case study stage is probably the super day, which is a full day of activities where you actually go to the bank and you participate along with other candidates in a series of tasks. The super day is where you'll be really tested heavily on your knowledge of financial markets and financial products, including how to value a company and other sorts of technical areas. Now let's talk about the career progression for both management consulting and working in a bank.
A typical career progression for a management consultant might be as follows. First, you start as an analyst and spend 2 years on the grad program, after which you become an associate or senior consultant. Over the course of your career, if you perform well, you'll be managing teams of consultants and eventually progress to selling work instead of delivering it. The base pay as a graduate could be anywhere from £30,000 to £50,000, and the big four and firms like Accenture pay less than the strategy houses and the boutique firms. Consulting tends to be quite fluid and merit-based in terms of the progression, so if you're performing well, you will get promoted. It's also known for having an up or out culture, i.e. if people don't get promoted, they usually leave, and people hardly ever stay at the same level for a long period of time. For bankers, if you start in the front office, you would start as an analyst with a starting base salary of around £60,000 to £70,000 at an investment bank. The bonus would be 50 to 100% of your salary, and this will last for 2 or 3 years as you do the scheme. At a corporate or retail bank, the starting salary will be a bit lower, in the ballpark of about a low £40,000. When you make associate, i.e. you finish your graduate scheme, your base salary then goes up to around £135,000 with bonuses from 75 to 125%. This phase of your career also lasts about 2 to 3 years. Beyond these grades, as a vice president or an executive director or higher, the base pay, benefits, and bonuses become significantly more as you go up the ranks.
Okay, let's get into the lifestyles and sort of working hours for each of these pathways. Is there a big difference or are they generally the same? So lifestyles for both careers in consulting and finance are pretty similar in that they're both pretty intense career paths. You're not going to be working 9 to 5 most of the time. For consulting, depending on if you're working in a strategy house, that tends to be a lot more intense. Some of my friends and people that I know working in strategy houses do a minimum of 10 to 12 hour days. There's a lot of traveling. There's a lot of sort of post-work extra activities such as business development meetings. Because as a consultant, you are not just delivering the work during the day, but you're also focusing on coming up with new pitches and new solutions to sell to your clients. And that usually takes place after the workday. When I was working in consulting, I was at a Big Four and we didn't have completely unreasonable hours, but it was tough at times, especially when it came close to deadlines, especially if you're working with really demanding clients. They tend to want things quick and they want it done well. So there was a lot of late nights and sometimes even some weekend work. And bankers tend to have it quite difficult as well. They work long hours every day and sometimes even on the weekends, especially if you work in investment banking. It's deal driven and there's a lot of tight deadlines and timescales. So it's likely you'll be spending 12, 14-hour days and also some of the weekends would be used to catch up on work and rush for deadlines. So one channel that I'm a big fan of is Nisha's channel, and she works in the front office of an investment bank. And I really recommend that if you want to find out more about what bankers do on a day-to-day basis, check out her video. I'll put it in the link in the description below on her day in the life of an investment banker. So big shout out to Nisha. In today's day and age, people move around a lot from different industries to different sort of vocations or jobs. It's perfectly normal to want to jump ship after a few years in either consulting or in banking. So what are some of the exit options that you've got for each of these pathways? Both career paths will set you up really nicely for the rest of your career. For consultants, most of them do move on to start their own businesses or work in startups. Myself, I moved on from consulting to work as a project manager in-house at a bank because my management consulting position specialized in financial services. So that was a nice overlap. Because of the wide range of skills that consultants pick up and their ability to be generalists, they usually are quite deployable in many different fields and sectors after they leave consulting. There are no shortage of exit options for banking as well. And a lot of ex-bankers actually, funnily enough, move into consulting after they leave banking. They could also go on to work as in-house finance people at corporates, or go to a hedge fund or a private equity fund. There really isn't a shortage of exit options after doing a career in either consulting or finance, just because of the rigors of these careers and how much you've learned and the networks you've built within these careers. So to conclude this video, there isn't really a correct pathway to follow. It just depends on what you prefer and what you're naturally more inclined towards. If you are a generalist who enjoys business, enjoys solving problems and learning a lot about different things and being exposed to different subject areas, then you might want to look into consulting, which is definitely more generalist than being a banker or a trader. If you really love the idea of generating profit, working with numbers, working with financial products, and you do not mind specializing in an area for a good few years of your career, then you might want to look into a front office role at a bank. So a funny story, when I was applying for jobs back in the day, I applied to loads of different consultancies and also banks. And I had an interview with Citibank as for a private banking position. And during the interview, I kept going on about how I wanted to solve problems for the organization and also explore different sort of aspects of the business. and they straight up told me that you don't sound like you are a good fit for banking. Have you considered management consulting? One of the things I was talking about was more generalist and focused on actually solving business problems as opposed to working with financial products or working with specific asset classes and being really interested in P&L and making money for a bank. So both of these career paths can be equally rewarding, and it's no use getting too fixated or hung up about choosing to be a consultant for life or to be a banker or finance person for life. The most important thing is to get stuck in at the early stage of a career and really try and pick up as many skills as you can, learn lots about the industry that you're in, make good relationships and form those strong networks. It's really important to make the most of all the opportunities you're given, whether that's in consulting or banking or even a different sector that we haven't talked about in this video, and to learn as much as you can to build up your brand, your profile, and to really decide what it is that you are passionate about. Thanks for watching this video, and I hope you learned something about these career pathways. If you think I've left something out or you want to ask a question about either of these pathways, feel free to drop the question in the comment section below. If you found this content useful, don't forget to drop a like on this video, it really helps me out, and hit subscribe to keep updated on new videos coming out. See you guys soon.